Hello there. Hello, I'm the Wang, and we are bowling on a budget, but we're off the path. Welcome to another video about where I yap about some of my favorite topics. I love things on a budget, and I love off-roading. So let's combine the two. First things first, what am I judging this on? Well, first and foremost is certainly affordability. This is a budget list. No fancy Tremors and Raptors and TRXs here. Just Facebook Marketplace specials you can find for yourself. Second, you gotta have four-wheel drive, because, it's off-roading. These trucks and SUVs on this list all deliver sweet power to all four wheels. Third, you might not consider these. This list doesn't have the basic Jeep Wranglers and F-150 or Broncos that every list has. Everybody knows the XJ is a fantastic budget off-roader. That's basically common knowledge at this point. We're going to talk about some cars and trucks you're probably going to gloss over when you got a tight budget and you want some off-road fun. Number one. Most, not all, but most body-on-frame large SUVs. Now, this is probably the most popular option at all the cars on the list. Big, beefy, body-on-frame SUVs of the 2000s. Well, and the 90s. 90s are included. Double-wide mom vans with enough cup holders to satisfy an 11-man football team. I am talking about the Expedition, the Sequoia, the Armada, and the LX470. I'm disqualifying GM SUVs because those things are everywhere on or off the trails. Now, usually these things are stuck doing family stuff, family hauling, running over curbs at Costco, picking up Timmy at soccer practice. However, these are just as capable as the trucks they share their platforms with, even if they're a bit cushier. Take my Expedition, for example. It has front and rear independent suspension compared to the F-150, which has live axle, which is better off-road. You don't really see enough of these big Expeditions or Sequoias duking it out with the Jeep Wranglers on the trails, and these can be found for less than $5,000 in pretty dang good condition. Take my 07, for example, $2,000, and it's got beefy, torquey V8 and four-wheel drive, and possible modifications. You're gonna have to get some locking differentials. These mostly came with open from the factory, so that's basically a must-have. But, lift kit, rip off anything that'll get ripped off on the trail, big beefy KO2s, and you've got yourself a solid rock crawling or overlanding rig that'll keep you going until you meet Rick Grimes. Number two, more SUVs, but midsize SUVs. And I understand this is a pretty broad statement, but let me narrow it down for you. The Ford Explorer, Mercury Mountaineer, Lincoln Aviator trio, and the Trailblazer, Envoy, and Rainier, these Explorer and GMT 360 platforms are extremely underrated when it comes to off-road chops. I mean, you've got a good six-cylinder SUV with optional V8 engines, four-wheel drive, and they are dirt cheap. You could probably genuinely buy one for a 12-pack of Busch Light. Now, a good portion of these are also three-row family haulers. They're just, a bit smaller than big full-sizers, making them nimbler in tight rocks and lighter. They're also cheap. The cheapest vehicles on this list. I'm talking solid cars for less than $3,000. Same story as the big ones. Put some lock diffs on there, big lift, knobby tires, take the running boards or lower bumper pieces off for better approach, departure, and breakover angles, and you've got an SUV that'll pick up a sparky shed of tools and stuff them down the Rubicon Trail. Number three, the Ford Escape platform. Now, hear me out. Put the pitchforks down, the silicone straps. Just hear me out. Imagine a lightweight, all-wheel drive, dirt cheap, compact SUV with 8.5 inches of ground clearance. That's as much as an F-150. Well, this is the 2008 and 2012 Ford Escape. The previous 2001-07 generation can also be modified into one pretty solid trail running laughing stock. Yes, people will laugh. I mean, you're driving Ford's equivalent to the Nissan Altima. Expect it. This also applies to the Mercury Mariner and the Mazda Tribute sister cars, in case you want fancy seats as you embarrass a furry in a base model crosstrek. The one you want? 08, 12, V6 four-wheel drive models. I mean, the four-bangers are good too, but they're daily driving. These are surprisingly robust little juice box looking things and can really wake up once you put some good rubber on it, jack it till it's in the sky, and make sure that diff is at least not as open as the neighbor's relationship. Didn't mention they're cheap. Not as cheap as a meth head Trailblazer, but a solid V6 all-wheel drive one will run you about $6,000. Add in another couple G's of mods and you've got yourself something one of a kind. Probably not for a good reason, but it is one of a kind.
Well, hello there. I interrupt this amazing video you're probably watching to tell you about the exclusive stuff, the cool stuff, the stuff that doesn't make it to the channel. And it's on Buy Me a Coffee. But don't actually buy me a coffee because I don't like coffee. But for one singular dollar, one little Washington right here, you get access to all sorts of cool stuff, exclusive posts, sneak peeks, things you don't even know, things you don't even see. Come here. Yeah, exclusive stuff. You should subscribe. Just saying, if you want to see more of me.
And number 4, we're talking about Jeeps that aren't the Wrangler or the XJ. And, well, I did say I won't talk about generic Jeeps, but if we're being honest, there's some pretty well-forgotten Jeeps that are really dreaded, and from the 2000s that really don't get talked about enough. No, not the Compass, the Renegade, or the new Cherokee. Those can stick to being saddled with piles of Fiat garbage plastered with a thick coat of cheeseburger sauce. The ones I'm talking about specifically are based on the Chrysler KA platform, a longitudinal unibody platform for big ol' honkin' SUVs. I say big, but the Commander and the Grand Cherokee are larger midsize at best. Now, any one of the KA platform cars can absolutely be modified for pretty good off-road use on the down low. These include the Jeep Liberty, both the KJ and KK generations, the dreary Dodge Nitro, the XK Jeep Commander, the WK Jeep Grand Cherokee, and of course, the Jeep Wrangler. That's right. The reason these are here is because they're related to the Wrangler, but completely unseen on off-road trails. Your choice of horrible PowerTech V6s, the rare 3-liter diesel, or in the Commander and Grand Cherokee's case, the glorious 5.7-liter Hemi V8. You can for sure put a lift kit onto these things and KO2s, and they'll crawl on a budget. The Liberty, Biberty, and Nitro, small, lightweight, great for tight trails. The Commander, yes, it's a literal brick, but it's a V8 powered brick. Do I want one? Absolutely. Will I hate it? You know I will. What flavor of TISM did you get? Honestly, a good off-roader all comes down to having a good tires, a good lift, a good differential, and a half-decent driver who isn't two Johnny Walkers in. But the best off-roader will always be a car you do not care about. Hence, the MJ Jeep Patriot. It's basically a modern XJ, but they beat it with the ugly stick to conform to government regulations. It's front-wheel drive, most of them are CVTs. However, if you do find the golden goose of a four-wheel drive one with the fiddly stick, let me know. I do some dubious deviances to destroy that diddly little dumpster down a dirt road. These Patriots are hilariously bad, but people have proven they can actually take trails well, and take it very, very good. Just not for long until they crumble like the hopes and dreams of an engineering student. Number 5. Obscure Japanese SUVs. Yes, it's vague, I don't care. This category is going to talk about some dark alley cars that you should know about if you got a hand 2 knuckles deep in the community. We're talking about the Yoda FJ Cruiser, the Xterra, the Montero Sport, or the Isuzu Trooper. I guess you could throw the V across too, but I don't want to look at it. All not as well known as the 4Runner and Land Cruiser, but they're pretty well overshadowed, but they're good. My personal favorite, the Nissan Xterra. It's an SUV version of the Frontier, so not so hard to understand. But what tickles my timbers is the fact that 80% of the exterior of this car is unpainted plastic. You ever see a California car? They're about as unappealing as a room party at an anime convention. Seriously, Cali Sun cooks cheap auto plastic. but underneath that you do get a competent body-on-frame SUV with good bones and a VQ. Yes, this thing has the Nismo washing machine. Find one with a manual and you'll go rock bashing in style, and ruin the eardrums of everyone else in the woods. Now, the FJ Cruiser is probably the most well-known here. It's probably pretty common among hardcore off-roading groups, because it is a genuinely competitive off-roading machine. Even it's got that weird three wiper thing going on. But that's a quirk, or feature. But these ran from 2007 all the way to 2014, and have the bulletproof 4-liter V6. Now, low sales did kill it because of the ever-so-lovely recession, but compared to a Jeep, these are pretty much cooler in every single way. Now, Mitsubishi, on the other hand, you'll find them just people loving the Pajeros overseas, and if you're wondering why Mitsubishi doesn't make cool things in the States, well, you gotta kick back the old time machine to the 90s when they did make cool things. I give thee the Montero Sport, a rebadged Pajero from the States sold until 2006. A rock-solid 3.8-liter V6, 4-wheel drive, and a wiggly stick make these things dirt cheap and super affordable. Now, parts and stuff you'll probably look a bit harder for, but these things are simple enough to take apart with a hammer and screwdriver. Now, the last vehicle I'm talking about before I end this video is the good old Isuzu Trooper. Now, Isuzu is pretty well known in places that are not America for big rigs and light trucks, but Isuzu is a company that gets around. The Trooper is a pretty rugged SUV that ran for a decade from 92 to 02, powered by a 3.5-liter V6 with an optional manual and 4-wheel drive. Basically the ideal cheap off-roader. Now, these aren't fast, they're incredibly chunky and very slow. However, they do have enough torque to climb a wall, so that's good. Now, if you throw some lockers and KO2s on that, you'd have a rig that absolutely could dominate the trails. And it'd be a treat to see something other than a Jeep or an F-150. Anyway, that is all. This is the end of the video. Now go out there, get a cheap car, and toss it around like a Caesar salad. You'll have fun. That's the glory of freedom. Get up and do whatever you want, friends. Peace out.